Hello and welcome to Backstage with Gig Performer. My name is Brett Pontecorvo, and we're here every Thursday interviewing some power users, some regular users, and all types of users of Gig Performer. It's going to be an awesome day today, guys. We have some fantastic stuff coming up in this episode, but if you are tuning in right now, do go ahead and let us know where you are watching from. We've got Thomas Bishop from Salem, Oregon. Hello. We've got Chris Bartley, regular attender. Thanks so much for being with us, Chris. Facebook user, the permissions of Facebook. Glenn Short, so happy for you to be here. Gig Performer team member Nemanja Pudar, which, by the way, if you haven't checked out his recent article about backing tracks, it is fantastic. So do make sure you pop over to the Gig Performer blog and check that out. Welcome, Carl from Ohio. So happy to have you with us. Okay, we're going to go ahead and jump into our question of the day. So if you are performing live and you're using Gig Performer, do you gig with a set list? Are set lists a thing of the past? Is this like a myth of something that once was and is no longer? Do let us know if you are gigging with a set list or not. The more I've been talking to people, the more I'm realizing it's actually somewhat common for people to go on stage and have a pool of songs, but maybe not know the exact order. Welcome, Dave from Italy. So happy to have you with us. So in the next coming weeks, friends, we have some really cool guests coming on. So first off, coming next week, we have Ken Matson. And if you are a member of the Facebook group Keyboard Players in Cover Bands, then you may know him. He's one of the moderators there. He's going to be coming on to show how he is playing a lot of 80s pop music, often with a very high amount of patches per song, using just key splits. Friends. He was showing me some of the stuff inside his set. It is incredible what he is able to do with really just a single rack space and a little bit of creativity inside of Gig Performer. So do mark your calendars to check that out. And if you are a keyboard player in a cover band, then do pop over to the Keyboard Players in Cover Bands group and say hello. It's a really cool community. But this week, we have special guest Dave Boulden coming on. He's been with us before, talking about his band Marylebone Jelly. I'm not sure if I got it right. I think I did. I got it right. Marylebone Jelly. And he plays in a situation, much like perhaps some of you play, where you don't actually always get a set list. You can see these guys have a ton of fun when they're performing, and this is, I guess, from COVID, something that they've been working on during lockdown. They were doing all of these videos, but they are a high-energy, spontaneous live performance band. I guess all bands are live performance. What am I talking about over here? But they really bring a show, and part of the show, of course, is dealing with the audience and giving the people who are watching you a performance that they really remember. And a lot of that has to do with having the ability to be spontaneous. And so Dave has been kind of problem solving this for a long time, hence how we have come to the advanced song chooser situation. So if you haven't already checked out Marylebone Jelly on Facebook, do connect with them. We'll link all of this stuff in the description below. It's actually probably there right now. So go check out what they're doing. They're in the UK, but go check them out anyway. And for now, we're going to pop over and talk about all things advanced song chooser. So welcome, returning guest Dave Boulden, to the stream. How's it going, Dave?
It's good, great. Thanks, Barrett. Good to be back on here again. So I'm going to just take one of these out. It's weird.
Yeah,
hearing what you're saying.
It is. Man, headphones are a thing. All right, so for folks who don't know, I guess I gave you kind of a brief intro, but who are you? What do you do? Give us like a brief overview.
Okay, well, I play in, as Brett said, I play in a band called Marylebone Jelly. We describe ourselves as a party band. So we're doing weddings, parties, pubs, but also increasingly more now, we're doing festivals. We've had some great fun supporting some great well, let's call them top flight bands from yesteryear.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, in a gig situation, that's been great fun. Outside of that, I run my own software company, so hence the advanced song chooser.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes. Yes.
yeah, so I've been able to combine my love of coding with my love of playing, and a gig performer is what's enabled that, really.
Hmm. Wow, that's really awesome, man. Yeah. So party bands. Tell me about that. So like, I guess at a gig, if you're in a party band, it's like your energy is always 110. Is that what it's like to play in a party band?
Uh, Absolutely that. We always say no gaps, no breaks.
Uh,
Our singer will typically say we're going to play for the next 2.5 hours, and at the end, depending on how loud you cheer, we'll either play a few more songs or we won't. It's
Woo! I love that, man. Bringing some scarcity in. It's very funny.
yeah,
Oh man. We actually had somebody answer our question of the day. So in the spirit of honoring the answer, um, Thomas Bishop creates songs and orders them alphabetically in all songs, and then creates set lists for the upcoming gig. Yeah, I think that's a pretty standard workflow.
yeah,
And yeah, ordering is super easy too. Okay, so Dave, you are a recovering Kronos user.
yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that. Were you playing with this band with the chord Kronos?
Yeah,
Okay.
I bought mine in. I can't remember if they came out in 2009 or 2011, but
Okay.
when they first, I bought one of the first ones to come into the UK.
Okay.
Because I had looked at the Oasis beforehand and really loved that, just could never afford one. So the Kronos was my way into having a keyboard which did all the different types of synthesis in one machine.
Mm-hmm.
It's a heavy little beast. I mean, it's sitting right next to me now. It's retired and
Yep.
lives in the studio now.
Yep.
I actually broke two of the keys. They click when I play them.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Um, but I wanted to be able to go from the Kronos and the various different capabilities it had. It's a very capable keyboard,
Mm-hmm.
and the only solution was to move to VSTs.
Mm.
And so tried a few different types of host and
Mm-hmm.
landed on Gig Performer and haven't
Mm-hmm.
looked back really.
Why? Why did the other hosts die out? Like, what issues were you having? What did you try, and how did that all go?
Um, my first go at having a host was many years ago when I used Brainspawn Forte.
Okay.
I didn't use it for live work. It actually sat in the studio and it allowed me to offload some of the CPU power to a separate machine for running synths live.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, but for live work, I did get Cantabile
Mm-hmm.
and Camelot Pro,
Okay.
both very capable pieces of software,
Mm-hmm.
but didn't give me the extension and expansion abilities I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually, I found Gig Performer,
Mm-hmm.
and it very much it works the way I want something to work, and gives me the ability to write code and add stuff to it to achieve the slightly different things that you couldn't do elsewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is kind of an interesting thing. Like, there are so many folks who cross through backstage who don't code at all and have beautiful, amazing, powerful setups. And then we also have people who are a little bit more knowledgeable in tech who have customized their setup. So you can approach Gig Performer really from either way, right? Like, you can come at it and be like, this is what Gig Performer does, and you create within those confines, or you can be like, well, I wonder what this, current Rackspace box is
Yeah.
here. What happens when I open this and you kind of go down that rabbit hole. But okay. So you ended up in Gig Performer, and I guess you ended up in Gig Performer before extensions were even available, right?
Um, and actually, no, when I came in on partway through version 3.
Okay.
So the extensions thing was there from the start, and pretty much within a month, I started to realise that scripting's great, and that
Okay.
gave me the ability to do certain smaller scale things. Like I did one which would take the input from a pitch bend lever and turn it into switching Leslie speed fast and slow.
Nice.
So particularly on Roland keyboards,
Hmm.
the pitch bend goes left right,
Hmm.
and that made it feel like a half moon switch off of a Leslie, so
Yes.
off of a Hammond. But that was great because that was a nice combined little script that
Hmm.
would do that.
Kind of
But
dipped
when
your
I
feet
wanted
in,
to
right? And then it was down the rabbit hole from there. It's like,
exactly, yeah. I quickly realised I needed to be able to do more than that, and so saw there was an API available,
okay,
and
for folks who are listening, because a year ago I wouldn't have had any idea. What is an extension and what is an API and why does it matter?
okay, an extension is a separate program which links, it actually hooks straight into Gig Performer as though it were a plugin, but it's a special type of plugin.
Okay.
The SDK stands for Software Development Kit, and that is a uniform way of connecting to the API, which is the Application Programming Interface. I think I remembered that correctly. Basically, it allows you to hook straight into the internals of Gig Performer from your own code.
Okay. Okay, so there are a few of these floating around for viewers. There's our Stream Deck extension, which I guess I should also add. All of these extensions are built by third-party people, just like Dave. So not the internal Gig Performer people, but folks like Dave who know how to write code and have some sort of a challenge they're trying to address. Okay, sorry to cut you off. So you came in version 3, noticed that there was an SDK, and then what happened?
I reached out to David and asked if I could gain access to it,
Mm-hmm.
which he set up for me and enabled me to do that. I then started looking at the examples that were out. There are a couple of example extensions which you can use on GitHub, which you can use as your starting point and build out from there.
Mm-hmm.
But I particularly wanted to be able to use HTML and JavaScript to do the UI portion.
Mm-hmm. And why is that,
The
Dave?
exam, sorry.
And why is that? Just for folks who don't know.
That's where my most of my experience is
Mm-hmm.
of latter years. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
started off programming mainframes in COBOL, but that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't come into music much at all. Um, but latterly, I've worked a lot in JavaScript and HTML and CSS, and it works very well for me for creating UIs.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to be able to do that within an extension for Gig Performer.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started the search and found a couple of options, and have ended up on something called Traction Chalk.
Okay.
And it actually allows me to create the window that you see,
Mm-hmm.
which technically is a web view. So it's like a little web page
Okay.
sitting inside the extension window.
Yep.
And from that point, I can then use CSS and HTML to actually lay out the page, do all the things I want it to do. All completely doable within C++,
Mm-hmm.
which this SDK is based upon.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot more work involved, whereas the browser already does a lot of the work for you, and so it's a quicker way to achieve the end that you want.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And your problem, if I'm understanding it correctly, is that your band does no pauses and no breaks.
Yeah, correct.
So,
Yes,
so,
we
so, for folks who maybe don't understand why that's an issue as a keyboard player, what is the problem with that, Dave?
usually it is how do I actually select the next sound? Because I will typically be still holding the chord of the previous song.
Mm-hmm.
Quite often, sometimes it's great. I can just hit the sustain pedal and take a hand off.
Yeah.
But sometimes you are maybe vamping a chord on the end, and so you can't actually take your hand off. So what my extension allows me to do is at a previous point in the song, as long as the band leader, in our case the singer, has told us what the next song's going to be, when I do have a free hand, I can find it on my song chooser
Mm-hmm.
and bookmark it. Then when we get to the end of the song, I just hit my foot pedal, which is mapped to a widget, and the widget talks to the extension and tells it select the next song that's queued up.
So what were you doing before this? So I'm like listening
Uh,
to this and I'm like, wow, that sounds totally doable. What was happening with the Chronos?
well, I always play with two keyboards, so I had
Okay.
a Kronos 73 weighted keyboard on the bottom tier, and the upper tier was a Roland Phantom.
Okay.
And I would typically have to page through the live setlist view, which you have on a Kronos. It's like a 4x4
Mm-hmm.
grid of sounds.
Mm-hmm.
And I would typically have up to 80 to 100 sounds on either keyboard that I'd use across the set. And I'd have to remember what page each sound was in. So I may have 5 or 6 pages to step backwards and forwards through. So at some point in the song, I'd have to wait till I got a free hand and tab through the pages to get to the one that contains the sounds for the next song. Sometimes on both keyboards, potentially maybe just one.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I get to the end of the song, you have to take a finger off and prod the one you want
So,
to select.
um, so I'm listening to that and I'm going, oh, okay, well, maybe that's doable. Does your band leader ever change his mind?
Yes. uh,
So the problem, as I'm hearing it, is just sort of like if you're moving from, a song that is I don't know. If you move between 2 decades of information, you're gonna have a completely different palette of songs. And that palette of completely different palette of sounds. And if you don't make the switch, the song just doesn't happen.
yeah, and it's particularly anxiety inducing if you know you're starting the next song as well.
Yeah,
I mean, it
sure.
has happened occasionally, and I have started the song with the wrong sound, and you
Mm-hmm.
have to quickly select it and then start again.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I mean, our singer will change his mind sometimes just before the next song because he reacts immediately to what's happening in the room.
Yep.
I mean, one example I can think of, we were playing in a courtyard of a bar,
Mm-hmm.
and we come to the next one. He suddenly said, "Oh, quickly, no, we're going to do yellow," because some guy walked in wearing a head to toe yellow suit and trousers, and it was, but
Oh,
but that's what we try to achieve, is to have that ability to instantly select the next song that we think is going to um, get the party vibe going in the way we want it to.
wow. I love that he changed the song because somebody walked in head to toe yellow. That is
Yeah.
everything about that is just exactly perfect and so fun. Okay, so your real problem was spontaneity. You needed to be so spontaneous that you needed a way in which you could move as quickly as the singer could move. Who your lead singer does not play an instrument. Is that true?
No, but he makes up for it by moving about a lot. And
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I mean, he is the focus. He's the guy who engages the audience,
Yes.
and that. So it's yeah. I think if you had to play an instrument as well, the two things would probably suffer.
Right, right, right. But the upside of being a vocalist is that you don't have to change sounds. Right?
Uh,
You just got to keep going.
no, although he will occasionally do an impersonation of the person he's singing. So technically, maybe he is changing sounds.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm like, how do I get to one of your shows? That's the question that's happening in my head. But okay. So your first iteration of Advanced Song Chooser was released pretty early. So today what you're going to show us is you've got some like new features, right? And some things you were going to
Yeah,
demo and kind of see the evolution of it. So let
yeah.
me pull your screen up here. And actually, we'll do it like this. So tell us what we're looking at and how it works, because I know there are some folks who have never seen this before. So what are we looking
Yeah.
at? What's going on?
Okay, and I've got it side by side with Gig Performer at the moment, just so everyone can see the interaction. But typically, I would run it like this. It'd be the full screen, and I
Gotcha.
wouldn't actually look at Gig Performer.
Gotcha.
But let me see. I'll put that back again. Um, so on a very basic level, it's touchscreen friendly, so you
Okay.
can swipe the list up and down with your finger. I'm doing
Mm-hmm.
this with the mouse at the moment because I'm not on a touchscreen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then you can press the play button, if you like, next to a sound, and it actually switches to that song.
Wow. Okay. Does
Um,
it
so,
does it alphabetize your stuff automatically for you? Like, will it sort these
um,
songs or?
no, it shows them in the order that the set list actually is.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay.
So it mirrors that order completely.
And where is the design for spontaneity? Like, how do I find a song?
You can either scroll up and down to find the one you want.
Yep.
If you are having a bit of a senior moment and your singer calls Queen next, and you think, well, which one? You could um, tap on the search box. If you're on a touchscreen device, your operating system will throw up a touchscreen friendly keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll just type with my own keyboard here.
Mm-hmm.
And you type the first couple of characters, and it shows me all the Queen songs because it's
Wow.
filtered. The search will filter by both the song name and the artist name.
Wow. So
So
whatever you
having
get, whatever tidbit of information you have is enough for the advanced song chooser.
yes, yeah. So having realised what song we're going to do, you could either tap on it to bookmark it,
Okay.
and then if you clear back, what I would then do if we come to start that song, and my hands are busy, they're on the keyboard. I map a foot switch to a widget, which I'm going to press over here,
Okay.
and that just takes us to the next song that's queued up in the advanced song chooser. So if I click that, it takes us straight into the one that I just selected.
Wow. Okay. So I'm like, I can kind of see how it works. It's like very powerful, but so simple. Find the song, click on it, and then hit the button when it's time to
Yeah,
move songs.
yeah,
Um, can you do more than this? Can you add more?
yeah.
Okay.
You can, yeah. So in the instance where maybe it's the start of the set and the singer says we're going to start off with these four songs.
Mm-hmm.
So we might say everybody wants to rule the world. Now, as I know I'm going to add multiple ones,
Mm-hmm.
I use the plus button to the side, which adds it into the queue up at the top here.
Ah.
So we put that one in. You may say then we're going to do Get Lucky, and then we're going to do Park Life, and finally we're going to do Take Your Mama,
Mm-hmm.
and that adds them all in the list at the top. And then as we start playing, I would select the first song with a foot switch press,
Mm-hmm.
and as you can see the list at the top, and it comes out of the list at the top.
Yep.
Get to the end of Everyone Wants to Rule the World, and I would hit the foot switch again, and it takes us to the next one, and again the next one, and again
Oh.
the next one.
Okay. Fantastic. Chris Bartley has written in, does it show lyrics and chords?
It allows you to see chords, but only a hint reminder. It doesn't do the Chord Pro thing.
Okay. Okay. But Gig
This is
Performer does.
purely a Gig Performer does. Yes.
So, yeah.
I mean, you could maybe run this on a separate. You could have two screens. You
Mm-hmm.
could have the song chooser on one screen and Gig Performer on another,
Mm-hmm.
which would allow you to have the Chord Pro stuff showing on one and
Mm-hmm.
this on the other.
And is there a maximum amount of songs you can put in the queue?
No, there isn't. I am just wondering what it will. I've never tried this. This is. Let's see what happens if you put too many in. It just wraps, so you can keep going. You'll probably run out of screen space if you add too many, but
Yep.
yes, you can, and then you can step through them.
Yep. Wow. Okay. Awesome. So you've recently added some new features. This is the first reveal of these new features. What have you done and why have you done it? What do we have going on?
I'll start with one of these smaller features.
Okay.
Occasionally, I may be starting a song, and obviously, you want to start at the right tempo.
Yep.
So as everyone may have noticed, there's a little tempo box up at the top here.
Mm-hmm.
If I just go into the settings and I switch on BPM there,
Mm-hmm.
it actually lists the tempo from each song.
Mm-hmm.
So as you choose, say Wonderwall, it comes up with the tempo there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously that's just a number, but if I click on it, it actually gives you a visual thing, so you can get in your head what your tempo is. And as you switch to a different song, obviously the tempo comes up differently. If it becomes distracting, just click on it again and it switches the flashing off.
Really, really nice. So does this work only on the song that's currently queued up, or does this work on songs that are coming?
It's only the one that's currently active.
Gotcha. Um, my so sorry. I don't. Only the one that's currently active. Great.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is can be very helpful, I guess, for your transitions, right? You've held a chord, you switch your songs, flashing light, and you're ready to go. Do you, at this point in your career, forget the tempo, or is it super muscle memory? I guess you guys have been playing it for so long. So
To be honest, it's totally muscle memory these
mm-hmm.
days. But I do remember a point at when I really would have benefited from having that
Mm-hmm.
kind of reminder. Although sometimes if you're playing a really exciting gig, you get
Mm-hmm.
pumped up and you kind of tend to play a bit fast.
Mm-hmm.
So in situations like that, it is a good idea to have that just to bring you back to a sensible tempo.
Yep.
Typically, what I tend to do is I'll sing the song in my head,
Mm-hmm.
and that immediately gives you the idea of what the tempo should be.
Yep. Chris also wants to know if you can search or sort for a BPM.
I could potentially add a feature to allow you to search by BPM. Sorting by it, not really.
Okay.
It is designed to stay in sync with
Yeah.
the set list in Gig Performer.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's cool. That's actually an interesting thing if you're looking for something that's 116, filtering by that or whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is super helpful. So this can be turned on, but is not on by default in the current version. Is that correct?
Well, this hasn't come out yet,
Oh,
so when it does come out, there'll be an option to the display will be there, but the flashing will be off by default.
gotcha,
But
gotcha.
you will
And
have,
when is this
we have
coming
the
out, Dave?
It's got to go through some testing and
Okay.
stuff
Okay.
first. Typically, I develop it on a PC, and then I have to then thrash it on a Mac to make sure the stuff I've done works
Gotcha.
there as well.
Gotcha. Awesome. Okay. What else do we have going on here? What is next?
Okay. If I go back into the options, so I'm clicking on the stream view. Let's click on the actual thing. Obviously, there's key as well, which I'll
Mm-hmm.
just quickly show that, so you can see the key
Mm-hmm.
of each song. Don't judge me on any of these. Some of these just in there as a demonstration. Some of
Okay.
those aren't the real keys,
Gotcha.
and that's just as a little hint reminder for when you're playing,
Mm-hmm.
just as much as the actual chord hints are.
And just for folks
Um,
who are watching this, how do you inside Gig Performer set this up? Because this is pulling everything from Gig Performer. None of this lives
it
in.
is.
Yeah.
No, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got a little workaround actually. So if I open up this, not that one. Let's open up one that's got something in. Okay, so sit down. So on the artist name there,
Mm-hmm.
there's a hyphen there. After the hyphen, that is the chords that show up in the song chooser. It's just a workaround so that I could have that stored within the gig file. Because
Gotcha.
if you have it in a separate file, you've got to keep it in sync. If you change your set list or you
Mm.
add and remove songs, you need to be able to make them synchronize up still.
Yep. Yep. And then right below that is where you set the key signature inside of Gig Performer, right?
Yes, yes. So
Mm-hmm.
it pulls that data exactly from there, and the
Yep.
same for the tempo as
Yep.
well. And if you don't have an override tempo, it does actually report back the global tempo
Gotcha. Gotcha.
for each song.
Gotcha. And it would still do anything else too. So you could or there would be no reason why you couldn't use Advanced Song Chooser to control Gig Performer and Gig Performer to control all of your other external devices.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
Yes, it's. I mean, all the song chooser is effectively doing is switching you to the next song. So
Mm-hmm.
everything else you have. So if you're sending out your patch changes using a MIDI out block, that still works.
Mm-hmm.
Everything you configure Gig Performer to do on loading a rack space still happens. It's just the only thing is it's been selected by the advanced song chooser rather than you selecting it within Gig Performer
Yep.
directly.
Yep. Makes sense. Michael Levitt wrote in, do you use a separate MIDI button or foot pedal to switch sounds within a song?
I do. I use a foot switch. So typically on the floor, I'll have two sustain foot switches either side of me,
Mm-hmm.
and then in the middle towards the back, I'll have the one for actually selecting the next song. So I have a dedicated foot switch that only has that purpose.
Gotcha. And is it possible for you to show us how you would go about mapping those things in Gig Performer?
Yeah, sure. I've actually got, if I expand this across a bit, so it's a bit bigger. Actually, I need to go global first. So this is the widget that
Mm-hmm.
actually performs the function,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to give it an OSC GP script handle.
Gotcha.
And this is basically this is a fixed string which is in the user manual, and it tells you to put select next song in there, and
Okay.
then my extension listens for that widget being pressed.
Gotcha.
But then using the standard features on the MIDI, you can use the learn to actually map it to one of your hardware controller, whether
Mm-hmm.
that be a foot switch or a button or even a key on your keyboard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I can see you're using the rig manager, which is
Yes.
so wonderful. Okay, so all of these widgets that you're showing, I assume, even for like your scrolling, has a default name that has to be entered into
Yes.
the okay, and so that's what Advanced Song Chooser is listening for.
Yeah. Exactly that.
Somebody wrote in and would like to know if you use a Mac or PC, and do you use one more than the other?
I am almost entirely Windows PC based.
Mm-hmm.
I gig with a PC. I develop. My studio runs on a PC. I have a Mac which sits round the back of the screens there,
Mm-hmm.
and I just flick the screen over to use it whenever I need to test anything on a Mac. But I just bought a cheap Mac
Mm-hmm.
Mini for £150, so it's just under $200, and it
Mm-hmm.
it really is just there for testing software for me.
Gotcha. And was your Windows decision based on your like coding needs, and then when you started to use VSTs you stayed because you understood the software or understood the operating system, or what was the
Uh,
evolution of that?
yeah, it really is. I have been a Windows. I mean, I started off on DOS before Windows existed.
Wow. Okay.
So I've always been a PC guy, and I've worked in an environment. My background is I worked in newspapers
Mm-hmm.
in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
I worked for one of the national newspapers, and so there were a lot of Macs around, but I they don't work the way my brain works, whereas
Mm-hmm.
PCs do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's I mean, I get asked this question a lot: should I get a Mac or a PC? And my
Mm-hmm.
answer is always use the one that makes most sense to you.
Yep.
Um, they're both very capable. They both can do everything you need, but choose the one that you find easy to use
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
it's a tool, and don't choose a tool that's difficult to use.
Yep. Yep. I feel you deeply on that. Okay, so what else? You've got some other new features coming out. I want to make sure that
I
we
have,
see
yeah,
everything. What else
yeah.
do we have?
Well, there's a couple that I will quickly show before the main one.
Okay.
And one is I was actually requested a couple of little features, and one of the customers asked, "Can I make the set list scroll
Mm-hmm.
using a widget?"
Mm-hmm.
Which now I can just about see as a tiny little fader here, but as I move the fader up and down, the whole set list will scroll. I
Nice.
did find this a slightly unusual thing, but having thought about it, I can now see why, while you're playing, if you've got a free hand that's got access to a fader or a knob on your controller, you can use that to quickly get to the point on the set list where your song is, and then select it. So
Mm-hmm.
it was asked for, and it was not that difficult to implement. So I added that.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is just another minor thing I was asked for, and
Mm-hmm.
that is when we're switching song parts. In the little display at the top, which shows the active song, it actually tells you which part number is currently active. Just so you
Very
got,
nice.
because I tend to do this using a couple of buttons on my MIDI controller, on my drum pad
Mm-hmm.
controller. And so it gives you confirmation that you have selected the part you're expecting. So when you start playing, you know it's going to be the part you've
Yes. And
selected. The
does it
press work.
select? You know, well, I guess yeah, we're in set list mode, so it's always going
Yeah,
to select the first thing because it's assuming that you built it out a particular way. So there would be no reason
yeah,
to fire the second chorus or whatever. It always starts with number one and then you move
yeah,
through. And
yeah.
when you're moving between song parts, is that mapped in your global MIDI or is that coming from Song Chooser as well?
I actually, it's all mapped in Gig Performer. I
Mm-hmm.
actually, all this is doing is just displaying what is the currently selected song part.
Gotcha. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Right. I suppose, well, the one main feature that's left is something I've seen mentioned quite a lot is people want to have a selector which looks like the Kronos setlist view.
Yes.
And I can understand that because I came from a Kronos as well. The Roland Phantoms have a very similar view. And
Mm-hmm.
so I have now added a grid layout option.
Mm-hmm.
So if I flick to that, we can actually choose the size of the grid. We can alter the text size to fit. So if we go about there, and so
Wow.
now you have it's obviously you can fit a lot more on the screen at once, so there's less scrolling to be done.
Yep.
In fact, if I tweak that, in fact, what I'll do is I won't do that. I'll actually just stretch the size of this a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so having set your grid, let's just change that a bit more. Let's do the 4x4. That'll do. And so now you've got more songs on screen, but it's that kind of layout people are used to of the grid of songs.
Yes.
This did raise one issue, and that is how do I bookmark songs? How do I add them to the queue? Because there
Yep.
wasn't room to put the button on. So I've actually implemented a long press now. So if you hold, I'm using the mouse to do this. If you click and hold,
Mm-hmm.
then it adds it up to the list.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so you can still
Awesome.
queue up
And how do you
multiple
remove things
songs.
from the list?
You either call it up using the button to select it, or if you want to take it out of the list, you can press and hold again on the list item up the top here,
Really
and
cool.
it will take it out.
Never used the Kronos myself, but looking at this layout, it feels very comfortable. You
Yeah, I mean, someone said if someone has migrated to Gig Performer from using a Kronos, or indeed even a Roland Phantom,
hmm
they'll be used to this layout of your set lists. It's
Yes. Yes. What do you use?
sorry.
Which
Oh,
view do you
keyboards.
use?
I my bottom tier keyboard. I've got an 88 note weighted. It's a
hmm
Studio Logic SL88 Studio.
Yep.
It's very compact, quite lightweight. In fact, it's great. I carry the thing around in a rifle case. I've got waterproof rifle cases for both keyboards because they're
Oh.
lightweight, waterproof and cheap, which is
Yes. Yes.
it's great. I don't know why people, how many people carry rifles, but it seems to be more an American thing than a UK thing. But at least they are available here. And on my top tier, I have a Roland Phantom '07.
hmm
Where I
are you using it for sound generation?
yes, I do partially use it. See, it's partially a controller, partially sound generation. I love the synth engine
Okay.
on the Roland Phantom stuff. It is available as a plugin, but as anyone who uses Gig Performer who's tried it, they know the way the licensing works is an issue. It has to call home every 30 days on the internet, and if you're at a gig and you don't have an internet connection, potentially you may be in trouble. So
Mm,
it's a shame
interesting.
because it's an excellent plugin. I adore the sounds you can create with it. It's a really good one.
Interesting. Michael Levitt wants to know: can you scroll with your finger in this layout, or will it select the song?
You can indeed scroll with your finger
Okay.
on this. It's
Awesome.
but also there is also a very very wide fat scroll bar at the side,
Mm,
so you can always scroll up and down using that.
okay. But that would just be like if you wanted to be extra safe.
Yeah, I mean the fact is, I think you probably actually to scroll the page in by someone on the page, you probably would have to keep your fingers off the text. It's the text that does the selection, so
Gotcha.
probably would be safer to use the
The
scroll
scroll
bar
bar.
in this view. On
Mm-hmm.
on the actual list view, you can freely scroll up and down because
Mm-hmm.
it's selected using the button to the left.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, actually, yeah, you probably would have to use the scroll bar for this view.
And when you're playing, are you using this grid layout or are you using the list?
At the moment, I'm using the list. I may end up moving over to this one,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not fully tested yet. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll get it to that stage first. But
Yes.
my own, but I mean the version before that's currently available now.
Mm-hmm.
I gig with it. I have done for um, oh, it's probably for getting on for a year now because I basically used it myself for a while to use it in the real world
Mm-hmm.
before releasing a version I would ask people to pay for. You
Mm-hmm.
need to know it's road tested fully before you do that.
Yeah. And what would be the reason to go with something like this over going with something like Mobile Sheets or Fourscore or Band Helper? Like, what what's like the most
Um,
compelling reason for this particular form and function?
I think the most compelling reason for this one is you don't have to set up any patch changes or anything. This hooks directly into the set list. I mean, basically it is the set list just presented in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
So pressing the button on here to select the song, it's basically it hooks straight into the innards of Gig Performer and tells
Mm-hmm.
it to switch to this song.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you do it with something like Mobile Sheets or some others, very capable software, great software, but you do have to set up all your patch changes between the two. And when you add new songs, you've got to add them in two places. Here, as soon as you add it into the setlist in Gig Performer, it's available in the song selector.
Wow. Okay,
So I
so
should
it's
say
just
song chooser. Sorry.
yeah, so there you go. So it's just less
Yeah,
work. And if you're not
yeah,
already using you don't need sheet music or you don't need but honestly, I guess in this case, even if you did need sheet music, you could use advanced song chooser because it hooks directly in, there's no programming needed, and then you could
yeah.
use Gig Performer to control your sheet music manager, right?
Yes,
Just sending your
absolutely. Yeah.
okay, cool. We've got another question coming in. I'm not actually sure I fully understand this, but maybe you will. Do you use Stream Suite Life on Deck? You know what that means?
I
That
do not. And is that talking about the Stream Deck? Maybe I
not
don't know.
sure.
I'm
Well, Facebook user, if you want to clarify what you're asking, then we would be happy to answer that. Um, amazing. So, for folks who would like to purchase this, what do they need to do?
they can go straight to the website if they go to Boulden.digital.
Mm-hmm. This is in the description,
Um,
by the way, folks. So
yeah,
just they
yeah.
go on there, and then what's that process like?
It's a WordPress website. You
Okay.
go. You can get all the details of the software,
Mm-hmm.
and just follow the buttons to purchase it. It takes all currencies.
Okay.
Um, uh, um, and yeah, as soon as you purchase it, it becomes available for you to download and use.
Okay. Awesome. The Facebook user says Stream Deck. Do you use the Stream Deck?
Stream Deck. I don't use one live now. I do have one on my desk, which I do use during my normal days. So it's a great product. I love
Mm-hmm.
using it. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I have seen there is a brilliant other extension available to use the Stream Deck with Gig Performer, which I will may well investigate at some point
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
it does look very, very capable.
It feels good.
Yeah,
But I guess to your point, same thing with the advanced song chooser. When you're working with an extension, it is so tightly linked
yeah,
to Gig Performer that when you're using extensions, and this I would say goes across the board for everything that I currently know about, it still
yeah,
feels like you're using Gig Performer because you
yeah.
you are, I guess, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
you are. I mean, it's not going to go wrong because you forgot to plug a cable in.
right.
There's no cable between the extension and Gig Performer. Whereas if you're using something on another device with mobile sheets and it has to send a MIDI message,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it just takes out that one extra layer.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And for folks who are considering grabbing the advanced song chooser, is this going to be a free update or will this be a half update or how does that all work?
Every update I make to it is free to everyone who has ever bought it.
Okay. So if you
You
like some
pay
of these
once. Yeah.
features that are coming soon, you don't actually have to wait. So this looks interesting to you. You can get the list view right now. When this update gets released, you'll be able to upgrade to it. And also, Dave, I'm sure you have documents for this, but we've done a backstage stream that is available that it shows you how to install extensions. So if you need a video walkthrough of exactly how to do that, that does exist on our channel. I'm sure, Dave, you have instructions
Yeah.
as well. But we're about to come to the end of our time. So, folks who are watching, if you have any more questions, do put them in the chat. Dave, have we missed anything about the advanced song chooser?
No, I'm pretty sure we
Okay.
have covered everything. I mean, the only thing I would add is there are quite a few options
Mm-hmm.
for change that you can change the clock format.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot that's configurable. The priority for when you've bookmarked or selecting songs, you can choose when you click the button to go to the next song, you can choose does it use the highlighted one first or the queued ones, or actually just go through the standard setlist order. You can use this just to step through the setlist order
Mm-hmm.
unless you choose some and then they take priority over
Mm.
setlist order.
Mm-hmm.
So there's
So,
yeah, I mean, and a few other bits you can change all the colouring and everything as
mm-hmm.
well.
Mm-hmm. So it gives you quite a bit of customization just in terms of how you want to run it, even
Yeah,
outside of what we have done. And I actually have checked out the website. It's very well documented, so you do know exactly what is possible and what is not possible, pretty clearly. All right, Dave. I always ask this to everybody. I know you've given this answer before, but perhaps it's
yeah.
changed. If you are a brand new Gig Performer user, you've never used it before, what piece of advice would you give to a person who is trying it for the first time?
Okay, well, I'll reiterate the two I used before, and then I have a new one.
Okay.
The two used before was join the forum.
Yeah. Yes.
Everyone, join the forum. Second one was be prepared to unlearn the way you do things because
Mm.
Gig Performer may make it easier doing it a different way. But
Mm.
the new piece of advice I'll give is actually goes beyond Gig Performer a bit, and
Mm-hmm.
that is whenever you interact with other musicians, other people, other professionals, always realize there's something new you can learn from them. You
Mm.
may be interacting with a student of yours or someone who's more of a novice, but there's always something you can learn from them. So
Mm.
never assume you won't learn something new because you always can.
Wow. That's good. I'm going to write that one down. Um, why should we join the forum, Dave?
Just because there are so many other users on there who have a vast wealth of experience. You may think I can't possibly think how I'm going to get Gig Performer to do this. There'll be someone in there who's already done it, and they'll point you in the right direction. It's a great community of
Mm-hmm.
like-minded professionals.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, uh, you will always get the answer, or an alternative answer to what you're trying to achieve.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy. The forum, I I had no real grid for forums before joining the Gig Performer forum. The Gig
Yeah,
Performer forum is always popping. There is always something new happening. Like
yeah,
post, 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 post. It's
yeah,
I guess maybe it's a bit of a stretch to say, but like it may be close to as active as your Facebook feed. Like people are on
yeah,
there
yeah,
answering questions constantly,
yeah.
sharing what they're doing. So if you are a member of no other forums, this would be the one to be on.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because it's really powerful. And yeah, just in terms of learning, like keeping an open mind, and that's super powerful. Static says, truly impressive. Tip of the hat to the creatively open and immersive world created by GP. Thank you for that, Michael. Great tool. All right, friends. Dave, thank you so much for being with us. This was an amazing time. We will be back next week, folks who are here with Ken Matson. Do check out the Keyboard Player and Cover Band's Facebook group. Yeah, connect with us on Facebook or on the forums. Dave, where can people connect with you? Where do you live? Facebook is the easiest place?
Yeah, Facebook. Yeah, either through the band or you can find me direct on there. I'm pretty sure my forum profile has the links.
Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome. All right, friends, have a wonderful rest of your Thursday. We will see you all next week. And Dave, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Yeah.